Hi guys, my name is Varsha and I welcome you all to this webinar today. So I see a lot of people who've already joined in the webinar and we are happy to see a lot of them are girls because sports management as usually considered only for men is a myth. And I have with me Neil and Rajesh who will let you know about all that sports management has to offer as a career option. But before I begin, I hope I'm audible to all of you. In case there are any problem you're facing with the audio or the video, please type it in the chat box and we'll help try and resolve it for you. Also, please bear in mind the question and answer round will be conducted towards the end of the session. So I have with me Mr. Neil Shah. Neil is all about sports. From the very beginning, he's shown keen interest in sports. He holds a bachelor's degree in business economics with emphasis in sports management from the University of California. And followed by that, he pursued his MBA in sports management from Seton Hall University, New Jersey. Neil has spent about 7 years with New York-based Major League Soccer, serving as the league's director of fan development there. He's also worked with Dentsu Sports India, where he was responsible for monetization of Indian sports properties that Dentsu was involved with. Currently, Neil is the business director with Libero Sports. Libero Sports is India's leading football consulting group. I'm sure you will hear a lot more about Neil's experience in sports management as he talks about it. I also have with me Rajesh. Rajesh is the course leader at Pearl Academy for sports management and will give you in-depth overview about the course sports management that Pearl Academy has launched. So before any further delays, I hand it over to Neil and to Rajesh. Over to you, Neil.
Thank you, Varsha, and it's a pleasure to be here on this webinar. As you can probably hear with this American accent, although I have an Indian name and Indian origin, I've spent 30 years of my life growing up and living in the US, and it's some place that is very much home, but now India has been home for me for the past 6 years. And I would say that sports has been also home for me for the past 36 years. It's something I'm very passionate about, and I was happy to come be in India, and it was always something that I recognized that there's tremendous opportunity in sports to grow, but it was always a bit discouraging to see the opportunities and access to fantastic sports management courses didn't really exist for the past few years that I've been here. And I think it's a fantastic initiative that Pearl has taken on to establish a sports management program, not just in the postgraduate, but also in undergraduate. So I'm happy to be able to support in however I can, and great to see so much excitement out there in the community to join a course like this as well. So what I'll do is I wanted to just share a bit about my story, because it also relates to those of you that are out there probably looking at, how would somebody get into sports management, and why would they get into sports management, and what happens once they get into sports management. So I'll share a bit about my story, and then talk a bit about what's happening in sports globally, and get into more India context as well, which is very relevant for you guys. So from my story, I grew up loving and playing sports back in California. Football was my #1 sport, but I played many sports, and I recognized that, as any sports person, you don't even realize the benefit that you're getting from this activity. You're just having fun with your friends. But as I got older, I realized there's tremendous benefits in terms of just the soft skills I started developing, even just my own health was getting better, and all the relationships coming from an Indian family. I was able to immerse into the American culture through sport, and it was something that later on I appreciated with the platform that sports provided. So as I got older, and there was all this talks about SATs and universities and majors and what you're going to focus on as far as your career, I always it came back to the same thing. I wanted to be in sport. It was something that for me was a no-brainer. And as I started realizing there was actually jobs in sports, and in great jobs, you can actually have a career in sports. I didn't look anywhere else, and so I made a clear intention for myself that I would work in marketing with Major League Soccer, a professional football league in America. This would be soccer or football, not American football. And then everything I did was towards that. So I went to UC Santa Barbara in California. I focused on business and I focused on sports as part of business as part of my course. And then I went to Seton Hall. They had an MBA in sports management program, and I was able to go deeper into the world of sports management and doing internships along the way to build my practical knowledge of sport. And then finally, I got the internship with Major League Soccer when I was 22, and eventually got hired by them and spent 7 years with Major League Soccer in New York City. I had this dream to come to India. I had never actually spent much time in this country. And so when I came here, I was able to recognize there's a lot of passion for sport at the grassroots level, and but not a lot being done to nurture that passion. And I thought this is a tremendous opportunity for somebody like me who is connected to India, but also connected to the West, to be able to come over here and take what I've learned from the West into India, but also learn a lot about my roots, my culture in this country. Fortunately, Libero Sports, a company that was set up to bring professionalism around the sport of football into India, was set up around the same time I moved here, and I was able to actually be a part of this growing movement, and also be a part of a team of people that allows me to bring in a lot of the things that I wanted to bring in, which is around sustainability of business, of sport, but also on the CSR and the social side of the business as well. When you talk about where sports is going, and think about where sports is going globally, it's exponentially growing. And what's made sports used to be about what you watch on TV and what you play on the pitch. But now it's completely different. It's being consumed at a much higher level and a much more creative level than ever before, thanks to digital marketing. The digital platform has made it so everyone around the world can actually not just consume sport as you're watching it or playing it, but you can actually interact with sport. You can interact with players now on Twitter. You can be on Facebook and follow things going on. So because of all of this new ways to be impacted by sport, it's completely changed the revenue model. It's completely changed the way that people engage with sport, which has made the business of sport much bigger and much more exciting. So that's no different than India, I'd say. When you look at India, and you look at what's happening in this country. I moved here in 2009, and in 2009, it was mostly IPL, BCCI, and then Formula One was popping up, and a few other leagues were kind of trying to get off the ground. Now in 2016, it's a completely different market, and I would say thanks to the not just the advent of professional leagues, because professional leagues is a global thing. It's more that the professionalism of professional leagues, the way that they're established now, thanks to Star Sports, thanks to others that are industry influencers, we have leagues that are not just popping up for testers or pilots, they're actually here to stay. So think now we have two leagues in football with the Indian Super League and I-League. You have two leagues in hockey. You have two seasons of kabaddi in the same year. You have two tennis leagues taking place and tournaments taking place with big celebrities. Then you have a lot happening at the national level. You have a lot happening on the Olympics. So now sports in India is not just about watching Sachin and Dhoni go up and hit, but you're watching a lot of other things as well. And so now when we look at what's happening when you look at what's happening within sport, you're also looking at a much bigger need and demand for people who can be in those who can help achieve certain objectives, whether you're a sports property, a sports league, whether you're a sporting goods manufacturer, whether you're a digital marketing firm that's focused on sports. In the past, I would say that sports in India was a old boys network. It was people who played the sport, who got the jobs to work for the sport after they retired, or it was people who knew other people. Now it's a completely different scenario. And I would say that it's relative to the past. It still has a lot to grow. But now it's at a place where young people like yourselves, young people like even a lot of people sitting in this room with me, have a place in sports because they have skills in a particular area, whether it be they're skilled in social media, or they become skilled, or they're skilled in something like technical aspects. So they start to learn about turf development, or they're skilled in something like event on-ground operations, event management. Now, no longer does a general manager of a club just look at who's retired from their team to give them a marketing job. It's people who are young, people who are skilled, and people who understand the audience, who understand the target market because they're from that target market. These are the people that now smart employers are starting to hire, and that's why a program like what Pearl's offering, and that's going to help you develop these particular and nurture your particular skills, is going to make a big difference. Also, when you look at what kind of career options that are out there, and you look at what type of what you could be doing when you graduate from an academy like Pearl, whether it's undergrad or a postgraduate, you can. There's so many different ways to look at it. I think people don't realize that sports is as an industry is one of the. It's an industry that requires all of the different types of people associated with it as any other big industry, whether it's telecom or whether it's IT or whether it's even retail. We need the same things in sport. So if you look at it from a league perspective, you need sponsorship, you need sports development managers, you need partnership managers, you need people who understand the the IT side, the digital marketing side. You need people who understand really all aspects of how to run that league, and you need people to actually do it. From a club perspective, is no different. But then you go to agencies like mine. We have all different types of people on my team. We have people in legal. You have people in business development. You have somebody who handles our administration and accounts. You have somebody who's a consultant who's come from Accenture who's working with us from a consulting perspective. So even within the agency world, there's a lot of jobs. And then you go deeper into the technical thing. So now there's turf specialists that are out there. There's infrastructure specialists. There's going to be those who are specialists in creating field boards in other areas that you see in sports. Then you look at the media and broadcast. That's a huge new field that's not even new, but it's a field that's getting much deeper and deeper. So then you look at broadcasters, people who are there on screen and off screen. And there's a lot of scope for business and career opportunities that way. So I would say there's a plethora of opportunities, but now how do you get those jobs is important to look at. And when you look at how you get there's a breakdown I always use when I think about it, and it's no different in India and no different than the US. It's 50% of what you know. 50% is it. Do you know the subject matter? Can you come out and actually contribute and add value to that property? 25% of it is who you know, of course. It's who you know in terms of it's not just that people are out there waiting for somebody to show up. It's you have to build your network, you have to nurture that network, and you have to get out there and actually start to leverage it in a way that allows you to get seen in the right light. And the final 25%, which I would say is the most critical, is how hard you work to differentiate yourself from other people looking for that same job. And this is the one where most people I interact with who want jobs in sports, they fail, unfortunately. Because what happens is they might come back with an MBA from a great university in Liverpool or the US, and then they also have met a lot of great people, so they feel like, look, I should be able, people should be offering me jobs. But what ends up happening is that there's a lot of others in the same boat trying to do the same thing, sending their CVs to the Delhi Dynamos or to Mumbai Indians or whatever it might be. And how you get that job is always going to be about how do you position yourself differently from everyone else. And that might mean that you've gone off and worked with an NGO running cricket programs for yourself because you're so passionate about it. And then when you're in that interview, you're speaking about what you're doing what you're doing in your own spare time to go out and develop cricket in a much better way or impact the lives of youth. Or it might be that you're just somebody who's able to come up with unique ideas of what the Mumbai Indians might need. And when you go into that interview, it's not that you're saying I'm passionate about sport and I've done this, this, and this. It's that you're actually coming in with a real contribution to what they might be looking to do, and because you've thought about it and you put some effort into it. So those are the things that, as an employer myself and somebody who's been an employer for the last 13 years in this industry, I rarely hire somebody just based off of a good CV or even based off of a good interview. I'm always looking about who they are as people when I'm not looking, when the employer is not looking. What are they doing off the court? And that's what when I was a coach, I always looked at that for my players, and I'm the same way for my employees as well. And I think that's a tremendous way to approach opportunities. And so when you look at what you're going to be doing, when you get out in the market as well, it's actually, so I'll take it one step back. There's always this question about what you need to have, what should you do, not even what you should do, but what kind of hard and soft skills you should have when you're going into this industry. For me, who's somebody, I've worked in three different continents in sports, and I would say that the hard and soft skills are no different. And the hard skills are very clear to me. One of the biggest one is, it's a simple one, just know Microsoft Office, no Excel, no Word, no PowerPoint. Those three, of course, Outlook, of course, as well. But you just really know Microsoft Office, because no matter what is going to happen, whether you're the president of that club or you're the new person that just started as an intern, it's 99% sure that you're going to be given something to work on that's within Microsoft Office, and no employer, especially if you come out of an academy like Pearl, they're all gonna expect that you know how to do these things, and you know how to not just do them, but you know how to use those softwares very well. Two is that, let's say, communication skills, in all types of communication skills. So whether it's email communication, it's verbal communication, it's even listening communication. So how do you actively listen to people? If you did not have communication skills that are very strong, then it's going to be difficult to be able to succeed in this industry. So on the soft side, I'd say one of the biggest ones is your attitude. Attitude is everything in this industry. If you're able to have a strong attitude, a positive attitude, somebody who knows they're not getting paid a lot right off the bat, but can still wake up every day and do the things that they have to do to make this industry keep running. It's a massive part that's going to keep you successful and keep you getting the right type of salary bands as well as the impact that you want to make. Number two is you have to like people. Whether even if you don't like people, you have to learn. You have to try to fake it and try to like people. This is a completely service industry. Everything about sports is service. It's all about people. There's very rarely people sitting in the back. Even when you look at legal side of it or HR, there's a lot of, it's not necessarily mechanical. We're not just making widgets. You're doing in the sports industry is interacting with people, negotiating with people, discussing things with people, and trying to sell things to people, however you do it or not. So you have to be able to like people, because that's when they want to work with you. And as I say it, it sounds so simple to say just like people, but this is actually a skill that you develop over a period of time to really be able to interact with others in a way that's enjoyable, where conversations that sometimes aren't that enjoyable can actually be, and more times than not, and that's going to help you stand out in this industry. So I think those are some of the things that I would highly recommend that you guys look at as you go on, and obviously you'll learn a lot of this at Pearl as well. Salaries are not going to be great when you get into the market. I always look at the sports industry, and this was told to me when I started back when I was 22 doing this. Is that and I can't see you guys, but it's an inverted. It's kind of like a line that's slowly going up, and then all of a sudden it just shoots up over a period of time. In the first couple of years, you're just going to be able to make very little money. You're going to be worked very hard, and you're going to have to love it or not love it. But if you want to stay in it, it's going to be that way. But then what happens is a lot of people get weeded out of the industry at a particular time. And if you're able to make it for a couple of years, really grinding it, then the salary opportunities are endless. It starts because you become a very key person in the industry, because you're at that point, you have strong contacts, you've proven you can keep going and building and sustaining your business, or you've done things that are just proving yourself as somebody that is worth investing in over a period of time. The other part I'd say, so with this, and it kind of goes with the skills, but it's just general advice that I would give, and this is what's kept me going for my entire career, is that don't look at sports as a job. Don't look at, don't look at, if you look at sports as a job that you want to get, if you look at, okay, I want to be the marketing manager of the Delhi Dynamos, it's never going to be, the impact is never going to be as as you wanted, nor would the experience, I'd say. But if you look at that marketing position at Delhi Dynamos as a bigger, as something that's going to help you achieve something larger because within the sports industry or community. So, for example, my dream in coming to India was to help every youth be able to grow through sport. Now, every job I've taken in sport is as long as it allows me, I'll take that job as long as I can further that mission. So even if I'm sitting and making a PowerPoint presentation late at night for for one of my corporate clients talking about a football grassroots program they could run, although at that moment it might not be the most exciting thing to be doing on a Friday night, I know that this is all part of a larger cause, a larger mission that I have for this country and for my life and what I'm going to contribute here. So it allows me to work in a particular capacity with a particular attitude, and a particular result comes out of it that is much stronger than if I was just thinking, okay, I have a job and I have to do this for my job. And I'd say this is anything in life, but definitely in the sports industry, it's good to understand what you really want to achieve through sport and how you're able to do it through that job. And you're going to be able to be much better in your interviews and also much stronger with the kind of work that you do.
Thanks a lot, Neil. That was quite insightful. Now, I would like Rajesh to further talk about the courses that Pearl Academy is offering.
Right. Hi, everyone. I'm sure that what Neil just said sort of put a lot of things in perspective for each and everyone who's listening to this webinar. Over the last couple of months, we've had a tremendous amount of excitement and inquiry about sports management. It's almost as if there were people who were actually looking out for a course like this, but the avenues where the course was offered were quite limited and didn't always quite meet up the expectations either. I'm sure that a lot of students or a lot of individuals who've logged into the webinar are, I mean, on one hand, when they're excited about sports management, on the other, they're sort of wondering why Pearl Academy. Because anyone and everyone who's heard of Pearl Academy would I won't blame them if they think that sports management is maybe not what they expected Pearl to deliver. But let me be very clear about one thing. What Pearl is actually known for is its pedagogy, is its not just the delivery of content, but how we deliver it. There is a lot of work involved whenever we decide to launch, let's say, a new course or even on existing courses as to what are the objectives that we need to achieve. And when I say objectives, what are the requirements of the industry, and what is it that we can impart to students as knowledge or development of skill that is in sync with those requirements. So a lot of work is gone into sort of develop a course, and a lot of it is experiential based learning. Theory is very important, but it has to be backed up by industry exposure or practical experience, because there are times when you actually get onto the workforce, you're not able to sort of deal with it, because it's a very difficult transition from academics to professionals. So at Pearl, we actually pride ourselves on our pedagogy and our method of teaching and our level of interaction with students, the industry connect, the international exposure we are able to get. Somebody like Neil, who's been a part of the webinar, is a classic example of somebody who, if Neil didn't believe in the kind of product that we were offering, I'm sure Neil wouldn't be here right now, being a part of this webinar. We've been told often on and on that Pearl Academy is probably 1 in a million. But in a country like India, 1 in a million means that there are exactly 1,251 people like you. So our endeavor always is to be 1 in a billion. Having said that, we are very excited to offer these two courses at the undergrad and the postgrad level. Um, at the there is both the levels cover more or less whatever the industry asks you for, but with the obvious differentiation of the undergrad and the postgrad level. Having said that, it's not as if one or the other would miss out on anything in particular, because the emphasis on industry exposure is pretty much equal at both levels. The modules that the courses generally have are revolved around sports, different aspects of sports, where it is a holistic experience when you're talking about sports management. And a student sort of taking up the course at different levels can, within the course, uh, he or she may be interested in particular aspects that they want to sort of build on as careers for future. There is a lot of emphasis from the industry for certain softer skills that are very important for students. So both courses have been designed keeping in mind what the industry requires not only today, but also for the coming years as well. And like I said, we truly believe in our pedagogy, and which will reflect in both these courses.
Great. So Rajesh and Neil, thanks a lot. I'm very sure this has really stirred a lot of questions in attendees' minds right now, and the next round is for question answer. So let's just see if there are some questions popping up, and maybe we can answer them. So the first question that we have is from Deepak, and what he's asking is, Neil, maybe you can answer this question. You said you've been around in the country for around 6 years, and you've seen how sports has really transformed, how the sports landscape has really transformed, and I'm sure during all your tenure here, you've seen some consultants, some new agencies or organizations venturing into this new field. So can you name some where our students can be placed after the completion of the course with Kuala Academy?
Yeah, absolutely. So, over especially the last few years, I would say that one thing I've been happy with is on the leagues, there's definitely been an expansion of the domestic leagues, as I mentioned before. So now that you have a bunch of properties spread around the country that are you could work with, but now with the growth of leagues, there's also growth of agencies to service those leagues and service those clubs, and that's where an agency like mine comes. We represent professional footballers, and so we're a celebrity management firm for part of us. So now there's other groups like that. There's groups called the Football Edge. There's a group called Four Flags. There's a group called Football Solutions. So these are all, they happen to be football because this is the area I know very well. But even within those agencies, they're all looking for young, fresh talent to come in and support them, whether it's servicing players or it's helping them on the business development side. Then you have a lot of other groups called like India on Track. They work with the Arsenal soccer schools. Conchian Football, they're working with FC Barcelona. DSK is working with Liverpool Football Club in Pune. So there's a lot of these grassroots programs that are actually becoming much more professional, tying up with some large international giants in sports, and then they're hiring many people to be able to really truly represent the brand of their partner, in this case Barcelona or Liverpool or Arsenal. So there's many, and I could obviously always share more to the students that are out there, a list of different agencies, but this is just a little taste of what's out there.
Okay, great. Also, if I may ask, Rajesh, maybe you being the course leader, you can help answer this question. What kind of international exposure a student can expect, whether it's an undergraduate course or a postgraduate course?
So Pearl is actually a part of the Laureate network globally, and we have a ton of universities that are part of that network. So when you're a Pearl student, depending on the area of expertise that you wish to enroll for or the course that you're enrolling for, there's a wider spectrum that you are exposed to. So we have frequent exchange programs where there are specified modules that a student can opt for, that they want to enhance their knowledge in certain areas. And there are a lot of universities within the network which we have access to, and the students also will have equal amount of exposure to the same. How we've planned sports management, there are a lot of other universities in different countries that we have strong connects with, and which will serve as an excellent opportunity for students to enhance their skills and get a clearer view of how the Indian industry, which is at a very nascent stage, is different from the global industry, and maybe look at best practices as well.
Okay, great. There's another question by Monica, and she's asking if this course is offered at Pearl Academy's Jaipur campus.
As of now, it's not offered in the Jaipur campus. We are offering it in Delhi and Mumbai. But let's see. I mean, in future, maybe we could look at the same.
Okay, great. Tarun Verma has asked another question, and the question is: how many companies in India are actually in the business of image management, celebrity management, or sports events?
Okay, so as I was saying earlier, there's now, because of the leagues coming up, there's a lot many more agencies that are popping up to service those leagues and even service this new crop of professional players that are getting proper exposure thanks to Star Sports or 10 or the other networks. I'd say in terms of numbers, I don't know the exact amount of companies that are doing this, but I could say that CAA Kwan is a big one that's out of Mumbai. Libero Sports, my company, is doing some decent work in this as well. And then there are other agencies and event management agencies that are out there. They're spread mostly in the tier one cities, so you'd find many in Mumbai, you'd find many in Delhi, and now a couple are popping up in Bangalore as well. But also, what I would say is that it's not in India. We still have a couple years where I'd say there's enough agencies to that is going to make in the enough agencies that are going to be able to really service the amount of interest of students to be able to work for them. So although it's growing, I think that the kind of endorsement deals that exist for professional sports athletes is still only a handful of players that you'd really see doing the adverts and going on, doing endorsements, as well as so it's in that sense there's not a there's really the opportunity is still limited, but I think that it's going to grow over a period of time, especially with the domestic leagues giving them more profile.
Perfect. So another question that is from Sanya Talwar is about the UG and PG courses offered at Kuala Cadny. So how much is the difference between the two, Rajesh?
So in terms of core modules, like I said, that the modules are designed as far as the what the industry requires out of a student, and the core areas are pretty much the same. Because the UG program is spread over 3 years and the PG is a 2-year program, and we expect that yes, there's a definite difference between a UG student and a PG student. So the program is spread out for a slightly longer duration, but at the same time, the UG students actually undergo a lot of training when it comes to softer skills as well, which is not to say that it doesn't happen in PG, but it's spread out over a period of 3 years. And there are finer areas when it comes to professional practices, or just how to go about research or market research rather, which the UG students will initially be sort of try we'll try to imbibe it for them. It happens for PG as well, but the it's a little more intense when it comes to PG, which is not to say that UG is not intense, because both require equal amount of hard work and effort, of course.
Okay, great. Another question is around the internships. So what kind of internships are being offered under the course, and what is the kind of work that the student can really expect to do during the internship?
Yeah, so for internships, I mean, apart from internships, we would have students going to the industry, to different organizations, maybe like a Libero Sports, and participating in different events. And when the internship, which is stipulated for a longer time frame, will have them, probably working with the organization pretty much on a full-time basis for a short duration, where they sort of understand how the entire organization works. So apart from that, they'll have short stints with the industry as well, where they're looking at small events and how the events sort of are able to how they're organized and what goes on behind the scenes and what you need to sort of do to execute them well.
Okay, great. And on the recruitment, what kind of packages can they expect? I remember you mentioned that as a fresher, the industry doesn't offer much, so the growth is exponential. So maybe there's a future which is really bright.
Yeah. So it's hard to quote the particular range because there is not necessarily it's like it's not a fixed industry. It's evolving over time. Whether you're working with a cricket club might be different than the salaries than if you're working with a kabaddi club. So, but when you start, it's going to be minimal. And I can't say an exact figure, but I'd say that you'll probably start at a very kind of nominal package. They'll test you out. There might be even an internship first, and then internship to hire type situation. But I would say the postgraduates would be a little bit different. Postgraduates might have gotten experience after they finish their undergraduate. So if you come in with that experience, it's going to help bump up your salary package as well. But I can't stress enough what I said earlier. It's some part about what you know and it's about who you know. But that final piece of it is what you're able to really, how you're able to showcase yourself and the type of things that you're doing outside of trying to get a job. And if that comes in, then all of a sudden somebody's going to look at you as not as a, getting 5-6 lakhs to start with, or 4 to 6 lakhs to start with. They would actually look at you as, if you know a lot of people who might potentially be clients of a particular agency, when you bring in those contacts, then all of a sudden your package might be completely different. It might come to even higher than whatever it might be if you didn't have those things. So it's all about the value that you're providing in this industry.
Okay, great. And Neil, one question that comes to my mind as I see the number of attendees here and majority of them being women, that's the next question that I would ask. Do you really think the field is suitable for women? Or is there a specific requirement which maybe we really think only men can maybe take care of?
No, absolutely not. I think it's been it's almost been a bit disappointing to see how few women were in the sports industry in the U.S. when I were there, and then I was very happy to see that change, especially over from 2005 onwards. I think India is no different. I think if sports has been considered a man's, and for males. However, women are completely not just qualified to be doing this kind of work, but more importantly, I think in a lot of ways they're better. And not to disrespect my male peers, but I think, as I said earlier, it's about people. And I think what I've found when I've dealt with women in the sports industry, and when I've talked about people, I'm talking about attitude. Women who are successful in the sports industry had to work very, very hard, almost harder than a lot of men to get there. So that means that they've had a certain attitude or a certain type of perseverance that's there. Two is about people, and sometimes women are just more enjoyable to interact with, just how they're approaching, especially when it comes to business development or sales. Women have a certain knack for being able to communicate and listen in a way, and I've seen that a lot with the women that I've worked with. And three is that they just overall there's a certain passion and interest from a lot of corporates to allow women's, or not even allow women's sports, but to see women's sports really grow in this country. We've started to see Aditi Jahan. She's a goalkeeper for Indian national team. She's playing in England right now, and it's a big, big story. And you start to see other women like Saina Nehwal and others. These are great stories because it's happy to see that women are starting to rise up the ranks on the court, but we want to see that more off the court as well. And I think many employers are starting to find ways to ensure that more women are rising up. So I think it's fantastic that women are part of this webinar and are showing interest in this field.
That does sound really nice. And so another question, which is from Shashank, and it's really interesting. What he is asking is how different this course is from any regular MBA or BBA, or somebody with that degree. Can he or she enter the field? Can an MBA or a BBA person not work in the industry with the same profile?
Right. So I think I'll answer the first part, and then Neil can probably take on the second. So sports management is very, very different from a BBA or any other generic MBA program because it's very niche. It's very skill specific. We're not talking about generic management right now. Sports is very diverse. As Neil mentioned, there are different aspects to it. And what the industry has mentioned in the past is that when you come from a BBA or an MBA background only, there are certain finer aspects of that industry that you will take a lot of time to grasp, and it can become an exhaustive task for the employer as well. Also, I mean, the fact that people who sort of take up sports management, the one fundamental thing that we're looking for is the passion for sports. So it's a very so for somebody who's very clear that they are very keen on opting it or taking it as their career path. I mean, that's who the program is meant for. I mean, that's how it is different from a BBA or an MBA program, because after a BBA or an MBA, I mean, it's there are many avenues that you're looking at, and it's not as specific as you would want it to be. But with sports, it's a very clear factor of where it's going to take you.
Yes.
So about the second part of the question, that can an MBA or a BBA person not work in the industry on the same profile? So I think Neil, being an employer, would be in a better position to answer.
Yeah, I think Rajesh, you had mentioned. I mean, I think you're pretty spot on about what you're sharing, and I would say from as an employer, and so even within my own agency, every single employee of mine has either an MBA or has a master's in sports. And it's not that we only looked at those individuals and we looked at that on their CV, but why it happens is that for somebody who is interested, as Rajesh was talking about, and anybody who's interested in sport, if they invest in themselves for a few more years to study sport and build that network through it, that means that they're very serious about it, or at least I see that they're very serious about this. And there's something that they're just not doing because they're passionate about sport and they thought it'd be cool to get a job in sport. There, you actually see that there's somebody who's just genuinely looking at the business of sport from a very official perspective and then seeing where they can fit into that. So I've always found that people who are masters and MBA in sports, if they carry the other qualities that I've talked about earlier, they can be a very strong candidates. So I don't think you can't get a job by any means. But now as more and more employers are also holding MBA in sports or masters in sports, I think they're starting to look at and value others that are coming out with that same degree.
Great. Neil, another question. This is just out of curiosity. So you've seen both the sides of the world. You've seen how sports really is changing here in our country and outside country as well, how sports have been for all these years. I'm sure India has a lot of scope of development still in this space. But do you think after the course at Pearl Academy, is there any way that these students can actually look out for or venture into a career outside country? Would they match the expectations there?
So when I shared earlier about the fact that even getting a job within the country takes that extra bit of effort, it takes that extra bit of perseverance and creativity and innovation to get the job, even within sports in your own country. I'd say if you times that by 2 or 3, it's going to be that much what it's going to take to be able to get a job in another country for anybody. That being said, it's the opportunities to actually live abroad and work in the sports industry abroad are amazing. The results, what that does for your life and what it's doing for even my life to be able here is incredible. So it's worth that push. Two is that I know that with the international partnerships and relationships that Pearl has, there's going to be a lot more exposure and a bigger network that these students are going to be able to create. Where to get that job, it's going to not be that you show up in Spain or America one day and you say, give me a job. It's that you're able to do it through a very systematic process by meeting people within that family. So to answer your question bluntly, I think it's possible. It's not always easy, but it's with the right efforts and perseverance and creativity, it can be done. And it'd be absolutely incredible when it does happen. Because, and the one other thing I'd say to this, sorry, is just you have cricket becoming more popular globally now. So I don't know if you would have heard, but recently Shane Warne and Sachin Tendulkar ran a very successful cricket series in America, a 3-city cricket tour that, from what I understand, they'll probably look to do many more times. So now, if I'm sitting over in America and I was running this, who would I look? And I heard that they actually ended up bringing a lot of people from India over to America during that period of time to help run it. Even from the broadcasting perspective, they didn't trust Americans who even work in baseball, which is similar. They wanted Indians who work in cricket in India because they wanted the best of the best of the broadcast or everything else. So I think over time, as more is kabaddi or cricket or other sports are being exported more and more to parts of the world, I think that's where Indians will really be valued as their knowledge of the game.
Great, fantastic. So another question, and I think Rajesh, you would probably answer that. So what kind of international exposure is offered at Pearl Academy, specifically the kind of institutes that these students are sent to for international exchange programs? Can you name some for them?
Right. So as I was mentioning earlier, that we are a part of the laureate network, and within that we have a lot of prestigious universities who are, our partners, where we have alliances. So Nottingham Trent University, Domus, NABA, Harriet Watt University, and LDT Nagod and Amphi are just some of the top-notch ones that we are we have a global alliance with. And again, it's not an exhaustive list, and the list actually may seem endless.
Uh-huh. Great. So I think those are all the questions that I see rolling in, and I hope we have answered them all for all the attendees here, and they've had a great session. They've learned a lot about sports management here. So thanks a lot, Neil, and thanks a lot, Rajesh. It was some great facts, some great insights that have been shared for global market and for Indian market. So there's one last question that has just come in from Kavita, and she's asking, Can you give us a bottom line which we can use as a USP of this course for students? So what is the USP for this course, Neil?
Unique selling point for the
Uh-huh.
course. So I think it's kind of touched on in terms of as an employer, if I'm especially here in India, as an employer, if I know that somebody has studied either undergrad or postgraduate in sports, and given the kind of internships that Pearl is working on setting up, the kind of relationships that Pearl has, and even the specialty that Pearl has in other sectors that they're going to be bringing into their sports curriculum, the USP is that it's if somebody just played sports, is passionate about sports, and really wanted to work in sports, I'd be looking at that person one way. If somebody is whether they played sports or not, but they appreciate sport, and now they've done this course, I know that they're going to have now spent 365 days a year, 7 days a week, thinking about sports, not just on the pitch, but they're thinking about it from all the off the pitch perspectives of the business of it. And I appreciate that as an employer. And so I think the USP is that it just gives a lot more investment into the world and business of sport and makes you a much more valuable employee when you walk into the doors and start working for any particular sports organization.
Great, great. Thanks for answering that, Neil. And once again, I would like to thank you, Neil, and thank you, Rajesh, and thanks to all the attendees. In case there are any more questions, I would request you to please call our toll-free number. You can write down the number. It is 1-800-1003-3005. Also, you can visit our website, which is www.pearlacademy.com for any further queries. And the same is written on this slide as well that you can see on your screen. Uh, in case you have any more queries, you can also come and visit our counselors at our Pearl campuses, which are across country. There, that's in one is in Delhi, in Narayana. There's another one in Noida, Jaipur, and Mumbai. Otherwise, as I mentioned earlier, you can surely call our toll-free number and visit our website and drop in a query there, and our counselors will get in touch with you and will be more than happy to help you with any kind of information that you need. So thank you once again, and I hope you have a great day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.